Surf Splendor.
What was your experience with Pavel?
What's everybody's experience with Pavel? Oh, gosh. Where do I start? I mean, this is live,
Go
right?
rogue.
Like, with the gloves on or off? I mean, I'll start with the gloves on.
It's not live. I can edit if you think better of it later.
I respect the hell out of Rich Pavel, and I know he respects me, and I wouldn't be where I'm at, honestly, if it wasn't for him. He's an amazing shaper. To this day, I mean, this shaping studio is kind of a direct result of working on there, because to this day, the choice shaping studios he had in Point Loma, I think he probably shut it down in the late '90s, was the nicest place I've ever shaped at before. It was like so built out, so killer. I think John Wagner could probably say the same. So there is that, and then I get to meet, through that I met Dick Brewer. So yeah, I owe a lot of thanks to Rich Pavel in those ways, and I think he's an amazing shaper, and he's also one of the weirdest, quirkiest guys I know too, and we've had a lot of run-ins, good and bad, but we're all adults, so.
What do you think it was about, what do you think Brewer saw in you that he would want you to work for him?
Unfortunately, he's not here anymore to say that. I think Paul Kelly was his manager at the time, and Paul still glasses boards. I know he works down at Josh Hall sometimes. I think Paul always liked the way I hustled, you know, and he knew I was like super motivated, and I think he always tripping out that I was like, you know, going to school. I did well in school too, and then hustling there, and then, you know, I'd go and I'd be at that factory till 10 at night sometimes, you know. I mean, and then I even worked at a factory in Oceanside at one time, and I'd bring my homework there, and I'd shape as much as I could. And there's sometimes I'd have a big test the night before, and I'd just study in the office. I'd spend the night at the glass shop in Oceanside. It was called Morning Glass at the time. Tom Nesbitt and Joe Varespi owned it at the time. And I just sleep there. Wake up the next morning, ship another board, drive back down from Oceanside to Point Loma, go to school again. I worked for Donald Takayama for a little bit on Saturdays. Donald would want me at the shop at 3 a.m. You know, most of my friends are going to TJ on Friday nights, even though we went to Point Loma. And I chose to wake up at 1:30 in the morning, get ready, and drive an hour to Oceanside and start shaping surfboards with Takayama at 3 in the morning.
Wow. On
Saturdays. And I'd had to do 10 glass slippers was the model I did back then. So I think kind of at that time I knew that's like, I'm going to be building surfboards. I'm not going to golf. And I just like wanted to be I wanted to build my life around surfing. Because I originally, I was wanting to go into orthopedics was my ultimate goal. I wanted to be I wanted to be a doctor. Yeah.
Really?
And then I did the business financing thing. It was like, but I'm going to have my own clinic. You know, I was really thinking that because I remember I had a knee. I was always in athletics. I remember I had a knee injury. I was really into baseball, but I blew my knee pretty bad. I remember I was so bummed I couldn't pitch, but then I had a good relationship with my orthopedic at the time. And I remember telling my mom, like, this is what I want to be right here. I want to be an orthopedic surgeon. They still work with their hands, you know.
Well, did your parents have any, I'm sure they had ambitions for you, especially with your golf aspirations. So did they have any opinions when you decided to pursue surfing instead of those more noble pursuits?
I remember my grandparents were a little concerned. Like, I remember my grandma calling me a beach bum.
Yeah. I mean, there's an association.
But no, I think at the end of the day, they just wanted me to be happy, which is cool. And they knew they couldn't. I mean, there's no holding me back, really. You know, there's so many times, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I'm like, to me, that's like spinach to Popeye. When someone tells me I can't do something, I'm going to do it. And just like building surfboards, so many people, even like when I was working with Dick Brewer, then he has nephews, Chuck and Mike Brewer, who really ran the business. And I remember they'd always tell me, Chris, I think they knew I was educated and all that. And they're like, because there's just not that much money in surfboards. And so many people always say that. There's just not much money in surfboards. And then I remember reading an article about Phil Becker. And I remember Rawson recently telling me that Phil Becker is probably the most successful, lucrative shaper of all time because he worked hard, And I remember reading somehow Becker would do 10 hand shapes a day. And, I was kind of doing the math in my head. I'm like, well, this isn't that bad money if I work hard, and then it sounds like Becker still surfs, and so I'm like, I didn't like people telling me I couldn't do something, or it's going to be this way or that way. I always do the math in my head. I'm like, this looks like a good number to me, and it's going to be fun, and I can do it, and I'm going to work hard, and I'll do it.